Congresswoman Clark, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being with us today. I was struck by some things in your testimony. One was your statement that we must be compassionate but wise, and also that as you're looking to reduce costs, you would assist current residents, encourage work, and promote self-sufficiency. So I'm hoping you can help me put together those goals and with the 250,000 Section 8 vouchers that would be lost under this budget proposal. I'm sure you're aware the vast majority of rental assistance in this country goes to households that are composed of children, elderly, and the disabled. Yes. And by vast majority, I mean in Massachusetts, that is 90% of the households that receive federal rental assistance. In the chairman's home state of Florida, that's 91%. In the ranking member's home state of North Carolina, that's 92%. So a vulnerable population makes up overwhelmingly, closing in on 100% of the assistance recipients. And I want to tell you about a constituent in my district. She is 76 years old. She has a gross income from Social Security of $18,025 a year. She receives a $5,000 deduction for her medical expenses, which means under the current formula, using adjusted income, she pays $188 per month in rent. Under your reforms, she would pay $450 a month. That's an increase of over $3,100 a year, or 17% of her entire gross income. Never mind the vouchers that we're just going to lose, that every housing group, whether at home or nationally, has said there is absolutely no way attrition can make up for that. So how does this square? I've been thinking, like, how does this square with your statements about being compassionate and wise and taking care of our current residents and self-sufficiency? Mm-hmm. And when you say the pie needs to be bigger, I guess my question to you is that ultimately you are being held to constraints by this administration, that you are forced to make these sort of draconian and heartless cuts that are so damaging?
Well, it's a back and forth process to try to reach a compromise on where things should be. Obviously, you know, my goal is to use with the greatest efficiency anything that we have. As far as the specific example of the woman you gave, there are cutoffs in terms of the formula that is used so that people don't experience what you said she's going to experience. I would, if that in fact is happening, there's a problem. And we also have hardship exemptions, particularly for the elderly and for the disabled.
I'm curious about that statement with the hardship waivers, because as these programs already don't have sufficient funding, they are serving the very lowest income people in our country. So the idea of a hardship waiver around that seems to beg the point. I just don't see the efficiency that we're gaining in this when we're cutting off 250,000 vouchers that are such a lifeline for such a vulnerable population.
Okay.
And if we're looking at that, you know, like building that path, as you said, to self-sufficiency, but then we're taking away the community development block grants, the choice program, the SHOP program, in fact, every incentive that helps create robust public-private partnerships. Where are those incentives in this budget?
Well, I do understand what you're saying and do recognize that we have carefully looked at who would be impacted to make sure that we did not displace any of those most vulnerable people. So
how are you going to choose who loses their voucher?
people who already have vouchers and who are already sheltered, when you talk about 250,000 people losing, you're talking about people who are on a waiting list. You're not talking about people who are already being sheltered. That's a different population.
Well, that's not my understanding from my housing communities, but I see my time has expired.
Thank you very much.